self-doubt's horrible. I feel like I've been there, but you have to learn to love yourself. If you're not in something 100% for reasons that you want to do it, I think you're always going to fail. You strive for one thing, and then as soon as I get it, I'm like, okay, what's next?
Welcome back to the Next Level podcast. On today's episode, we have Lexie Carducci, best known as the property fairy godmother. Lexie is a TV presenter, a property developer, but most importantly, she's giving you free tips and advice on how you can get started in property for free today. So Lexie, welcome to the show. The Last Table in the Sun, your book. When one of the party takes a fatal fall from grace, literally, the girls end up in the middle of it and think they could have a murder suspect on their hands. But the deeper you dig in a world where fame and money equal power, the harder it is to get out of and easier it is to be buried. What does that mean?
Well, I guess like that book that I wrote is very much my life, except I didn't kill anyone. But it means that a lot of the people that they're involved with in this book, so 4 girls having a lovely time in London, all doing different work, but one of them works in a PR company, one of them's like an actress, one of them's in social media. Mm-hmm. So they go to all these glitzy parties, have a great time. But a lot of the people that are at these parties are people that are controlling businesses, earn a lot of money, there's money being thrown around everywhere. And in that world, a lot of people think money equals power, so they can control things that are going on with their money. Kind of like the real world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say that comes down to lack of confidence?
People controlling people with their money.
Yeah.
No, I think that's just people thinking that they've got money and they can do what they want.
Yeah. And where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. I don't have a lot of money, so I can't. But like, as in, if I was going to say where do I think that comes from, I think it comes from films and things that we're shown where you have stereotypes happen for a reason, don't they? So if you see the stereotype of someone with money, what in how they're represented a lot of the time in films and things like that is that they've got power. And you watch it in things literally like Power, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they're talking about drug money. Still a lot of money, right? And they are using that to control people, and because you're top of the food chain, and I think it goes to your head that I am in control of all these people. They work for me. I call the shots because I'm paying them.
So is that why you work for yourself now?
Yeah.
I thought as much.
Yeah. No. I can't be controlled by anyone.
That's a good thing. That is a good thing. So
I think that's a good thing. But it's not for everyone. Not like... life isn't like one size fits all, nor is property, right? Which is what I'm in.
Yeah.
But it's the same rule for whatever you do. Everyone's different. If we were all the same, like, life would be so boring. And one thing that works for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. So I can't sit here and preach and be like, everyone should quit their job and work for themselves. Because as much as it works for me, and I love that, and my top life point in life is work-life balance. Like, that's what I want for my life, and that's why I work doing what I do. And I can now choose with who I work with and the hours that I work and when I go on holiday. And I hated being told, right, Lexie, you've got X amount of holiday, and once you've used it, you're done. And I didn't like that at all. But for some people, like, I know a lot of people that are in big corporate jobs. A lot of my clients are in big corporate jobs, and for them, they're like, I couldn't do what you do. I need to know what salary is coming into my bank every month because I've got XXX outgoings, and I would be so stressed and anxious if I didn't know what was coming into my account every month. I'd be scared to spend any money because I couldn't, plan where the next bit's coming from.
Where did the drive come to get better, or, like you say, work for yourself? Because there's some people that can't do that.
Yeah, I think my dad. So my dad used to work for Canon. He was like one of their top sales people, like colour sales people back when everyone was getting a photocopier, a faxer, a printer, in like the 90s. And then my mum and dad had me, and dad found that he wasn't necessarily spending all the time that he wanted with his daughter because he was constantly working a sales job, like like hyped up salespeople. And so he quit that job, still worked with Canon as a client, but just went out on his own. And I think growing up and seeing my dad, you know, not having to work 24/7, like 5 days a week, and he was always there after school, and you know, he could take time off when he wanted. He was his own boss. He could control what he did. And I think subconsciously, you're not necessarily as a child thinking about that, but it resonates and it goes in, doesn't it? And I think I've seen that, and it's made me think I like having that flexibility. Like, I'm here to have a good time. And I always think if something's not enjoyable and it's not fun, I don't want to do it.
And I think it's something that you alluded to earlier as well. It's not always going to be fun being your own boss.
Oh, no.
But you've got to know where you're going.
Yeah. And you've got to, like, at the end of the day, it's going to be more enjoyable because being your own boss for me, because of the reasons that I wanted to be my own boss. Yeah. Like, flexibility was way more important to me than knowing what my salary was coming into my bank every month.
And again, from looking at what your dad done, he was able to be there for yourself and probably for your mum as well. Did that improve your relationship with your family at all?
I think so. And I think, so I'm an only child and it was just me, mum and dad. Yep. But my mum's sister literally lived like 2 streets away. So my auntie and uncle and my 2 cousins. One of my cousins a year older than me, one of them's a year younger than me. And we just used to hang out every day. So they were kind of like my brothers. And again, everyone's life is different. And I'm not saying something's right and something's wrong. I can only speak from my opinion. But my mum actually stopped her job. She used to work for Pickford's, funnily enough, who I work with now. I know a lot of the time, like when my house hunters are moving, I'm like, great, Pickford's will sort you out. They'll move you all your stuff for you. So she used to work for them. But when she had me, she actually stopped working. And my auntie did the same thing when she had her children, which is a very old fashioned thing to do. I appreciate that, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but as a child, growing up with my mum and my auntie around every day, day in, day out, we had great times. We had a little beach hut in the summers, because I grew up in Torquay in Devon. We'd go to the beach hut every day. I had a great childhood. I loved it, and my mum and dad were a massive part of that because I spent every day with them.
Is that something that you would aspire to do for yourself?
I said, yeah. My boyfriend will vouch for that. Again, personal, not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, but I personally will not have a child until I know that I don't have to work. My income is replaced from something else. But that might change. That's my personal opinion. Yeah. Sat here right now, 6 months' time, I might have a different opinion.
I completely agree. And you shouldn't, and this goes for everyone else, you shouldn't put that added pressure on yourself saying, I've got to hit a certain income. No. It has to be 10 grand. It seems to be the magic number nowadays, doesn't it?
I wish.
I've got to earn 10 grand a month passive income. It's a load of rubbish. You don't necessarily need to earn that amount. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. Yeah, I believe. I
believe that as well. And that can change. Like, I always feel like, okay, it's great to goal set. It's great to have an idea of where you want to go. But actually, I feel like I'm always flexible with whatever goal I'm setting. And sometimes you don't achieve that goal, and that's fine, but you've given it a go. And I think that's one of the big things in life. And what I was always brought up believing is that if you can say whatever you're doing that you've tried your hardest and you've put in the most effort that you can, and it still doesn't go the way you want it, you can never be disappointed, because you're like, I've done everything I can. So some things just aren't meant to be. That's...
Yeah, no, I agree again. I mean, but in order to leave a job, or because there'll be people listening that going, I need to start my own business, I'd love to have that level of income, you've got to have a level of confidence about you to actually make that, or take that next step, or take things to the next level, no pun intended. But where did that come from? Because I know that you love that.
I know,
subject.
Yeah.
You love confidence.
I do. So I used to be a confidence coach before I got into property and things like that. So I think my social media as well with property and whatever I've always done on social media before I was doing property, it was the confidence coach stuff. And I've always tried to solve problems that I think I had growing up. So property, for example, what I do now on social media, I'm just going through the basics with people, breaking it down, making it more fun, making it less intimidating, because I wish I had that. Same goes with confidence, and why I was a confidence coach is because growing up, I don't actually think I had a lot of confidence in school. And so I almost would fake it till you make it kind of thing, and look at other people that were in my schools that I deemed to be confident, the people that could crack a joke, the people that would laugh, the people that would put themselves out there, the people that would do silly things. And I'd be like, oh, they've got a lot of confidence. I'd almost copy what they were doing and their actions because I wanted to be like them and be confident enough to basically laugh at yourself and take the mickey out of yourself. And I, growing up, I didn't really have the ability to do that. So I don't know where my confidence came from. I actually do not know where it came from. I do think that as you get older, you start to care less. That's definitely something. I think, no.
No, I agree with you.
Now I couldn't care. It's like indifference to things, because I love the word indifference. I just think it holds so much power, because it's not hate. That means or dislike of something. That still means you've got an opinion and emotion attached to it. What's the actual opposite of love? Indifference. And I feel like if anyone ever comes at me, the best thing, that's why people are so scared of social media right now. And because people have a voice, they can attack you for this, that, and everything. The most power you can ever give to those people is indifference. And that's saying nothing. That's so powerful, to be indifferent to something.
But most people would say on the contrary to that is you should comment back and push the algorithms, and because there's people out there.
That's very true if you're thinking about algorithms, but you're still indifferent because you're not actually caring about as long as you're doing it from a point that you don't care about it. Because okay, brilliant. If you're like, I'm now going to argue back to that person because I'm doing it for myself. I don't actually care what I'm arguing about. I'm boosting my algorithm. Brilliant. But if you're actually getting involved emotionally, I don't have time for it.
How do we get to the position of not caring?
Yeah, not giving a monkeys.
Not giving a shit.
Yeah, are we allowed to say that?
Yeah, say what you want.
Not giving a shit.
You can say whatever you like.
Oh, I love it.
Say whatever you like.
Where do I think you get that from? And I think a lot of it does come down to a stereotype. If you think of a confident person, what is it? It's body language. It's the way they talk. They're not stumbling over words. They're not being really quick with words. A lot of it comes from your speech, the way that your body language, the way that you talk, the way that you hold yourself. Easy to start a conversation with, can have a smile on your face and have a laugh with people and be quite chatty and talkative. Okay, so let's take each one of those points and break it down to kind of fit that stereotype. And it's okay to fake it till you make it. Like in my confidence school, what I used to teach people, I'd give them a handbook of literally conversation starters. We're Brits. We're the best small talkers in the world. Like sometimes my boyfriend's so funny because he's always like, oh, you tell people to talk about the weather. He was like, that's so lowbrow. Talk about politics or this and that. And I'm like, not everyone knows about politics. So actually, if you want to start a conversation with someone, you're not going to go up to them and be like, oh, so what do you think about Boris Johnson? Or like, do you know what I mean? Like, you're just not going to do it. So, but you would start a conversation with someone like small. It is lowbrow and it's small talk, but you'd start a conversation with someone saying, hey, how are you? I'm Lexie. This is what I do. This is a great event. Have you been to this venue before? How did you get here? Do you live? Where do you guys live? What are you doing after this? What are your plans for the weekend? We're the queens of small talk.
but what do we do if that person is, let's say, an introvert, and they just can't get out of their way? You
fake it till you make it. You go, right, shoulders back, stand up straight, walk my way into a room. I feel like a lot of confidence is faked until then it just becomes a natural habit. Biggest thing that people get scared of is mainly walking into rooms where you don't know people, going for a job interview. All these things can be broken down into like almost like a little schedule. And you just have to have things like, I'd give my pupils like 5 little questions and conversation starters that they could have with new people that you meet, whether that's in a work environment, a school environment, a job interview, like just little basic little questions like I just went through then. And knowing that you've got those up your sleeve is kind of a fail-safe. You know that you've got them there. And from any conversation that you start with someone, there's going to be something that you have in common, or they're going to say something that you're like, oh, actually, I know a bit about that. That's really cool. The more you talk to someone about random shit, the more you suddenly like have so much in common. And this is why I always say, like, just going off piece slightly, always say in property, like, to my clients, write a little bio about yourself. You would not believe how many times my clients have written a little bio about themselves that, you know, they're like, oh, I've got a toy poodle, and the landlord's like, oh my god, I've got a toy poodle. And it's such silly things like that that can make connections and get you ahead.
Absolutely. And I think what people often do is they'll go into that situation, like a networking event, for example, where we actually met.
Oh no, I love a networking event.
But what they'll do, they'll go, oh, what about this situation? But if they change the way they thought about the situation they're in, and they change the way they spoke to themselves, and actually ask themselves, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yes. Oh my god, I love that. What's the worst thing that can happen?
But what's the best thing that can happen?
Yeah.
And think of the outcome.
Yeah.
And weigh it up and go, actually, this is the best and this is the worst. Think of the best thing that can happen rather than the actual worst thing.
But actually, I totally agree with that. And actually, it's really good to highlight the worst thing that can happen. What is the worst thing that can happen? Someone said, you try and ask for an opportunity, someone says no. I get no's every day in my industry. Trying to be a presenter, someone blocked me on Instagram because I harassed them so much, being like, give me a job, I want to work with you. Blocked. And I'm like, whatever, next, like, move on to the next person. That's the worst someone can say. The worst someone can say is no if you ask for an opportunity. I feel like a lot of confidence issues come from feeling embarrassed by something. Oh, what if I spill a drink on myself? Oh, what if I sit in something and it looks like I've shat myself? Like, stupid, do you know what I mean? Silly things like that. I'm like, laugh about it, it'd be hilarious. Like, it just, stupid things happen, and it's the way that you deal with it that it says so much about you. And if you can literally just learn to laugh at anything, like... Yeah,
absolutely. But how about self-doubt?
Yeah, I think that massively plays a part in people's confidence.
Have you had to deal with self-doubt before?
Yeah, I think so, when you get so many no's with things, you're like, why am I getting so many no's? But I feel like I've now become my biggest cheerleader. And I think if you believe, like, I believe I can do things, and I'm like, I'm so determined to do this. I want to do it. I'm not going to give up. And I love that. Like, I think if I look at myself when I was a kid, I'm like, oh my God, well done, Lexie. Yeah. But yeah, I think self-doubt is a killer. Like, literally, because people are very... Self-doubt's horrible. I feel like I've been there, but you have to learn to love yourself. Like I said, I'm a biggest cheerleader, and I think it's pushing yourself out of your comfort zone as well, and actually doing things that freak you out and things that you don't think you can do gives you that little bit of, oh, okay, I was a bit terrified about this. We all are in situations throughout life where we feel scared of something, or we feel like we're not going to accomplish something, whether it's school, job interviews, once you've got a job, performing in that role. Like, I feel like as a presenter, you're constantly under attack because there's so many other people that would kill for a role that you're doing. So you have to stay on top of your game. And I feel like you're like batting competition away, like left, right, and centre. And my boyfriend is so good, and my dad, like, they're very similar people, and weirdly, but the way that they think about things and the way that sometimes they give me advice on things is so similar, because my boyfriend's like, why don't you work with your competition? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's actually a great point. Yeah. Think of things, two heads are better than one. Let's go for the same thing, or let's pitch an idea where we can work on it together.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice for anyone listening, by the way.
Thanks, Dan and Luke.
Take me back to a situation where you've experienced self-doubt, or the situation where you experienced the most self-doubt, and how you dealt with it.
I think that's such a good question. You've put me on the spot. I think I'm going to use something that's been recent, because I feel like growing up, I was a different person. Like, I feel like there were probably a lot of things growing up, but in recent years, I had an audition for a TV show, which I really wanted. And I was like, this is literally my go-to show. Like, I want to be on this show, and it's perfect for me. Like I said before, I'm quite a believer in myself. That sounds so narcissistic, but I feel like, You've got to be your own cheerleader. If you don't back yourself, no one else is going to do it. So I was like, this is my job. I've got this in the bag. And then I didn't get it. And I think it's talking to, you're like, why didn't I get it? I feel like I was perfect for this. I do this day in, day out as a job. Like, it's the exact role that I do. And you're going to hire someone that has zero to do with it. But okay. But sometimes you've just got to sit back and go, you know what? For one reason or another, that was not meant for me. Although I really thought it was. But I'm like, okay, well, for, something else is going to come along that's bigger. I massively believe in that. And again, I tried my hardest. So I couldn't blame myself and go, oh, I messed up the audition. Oh, I could have done this better. I should have done that better. There's just one reason: I did not fit what they were looking for. And sometimes that's so true in job roles, in whatever your team that you're trying to get onto, or whatever you're doing in life. Like, if something doesn't work out, and you, like we said before, you've tried your hardest, you can't be disappointed at it. You can't argue with the facts that it just wasn't meant to be. Fair enough if you think, oh, I messed that up. I didn't try hard enough. Well, then there's your lesson for next time. This time it wasn't meant to be, and now you've learned your lesson. And next time you won't make the same mistake again.
And it shows the level of resilience from yourself in order to bounce back. And there's not many people that can do
straight back on it the next day. Like, right, next TV show.
I can just imagine that from yourself. And for anyone listening, that you will go through that if you own your own business, or, for example, yourself in presenting. So talk to me about what you're currently doing with the presenting as well.
Yeah. So at the minute, I am working with lots of different, mainly developers that are looking to advertise to first-time buyers. So like shared ownership developments, and going around and touring their properties, or chatting to people that have gone through like shared ownership experience, and just not being biased with it as well. Because as a property finder, that's what I'm in the industry to do, like help the people. I'm not there necessarily working for different developers. Like I've always said, I talked on my socials the other day about 100% mortgages, which was working with the lender. But I was very clear that I'm going to give my honest opinion, and the product isn't going to work for everyone. It's not. You can't launch a product like that and think that suddenly everyone's going to jump on it, because it doesn't work for everyone. And I think, doing something like that, you've got to know what works for you, and what doesn't work for you is just as important as knowing what does work for you and knowing what to rule out.
What is your opinion on 100%?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I think in the wrong hands, it would be really dangerous. You could go into negative equity. And I just think it's so easy for that to spiral out of control. I also don't think it stacks well with the 5.49% interest rate that they are at, which I think is extortionate. And also, if you look at what I think it was up to £600,000, and the rent you'd be paying that was like $3,400 a month. Where are you going to get? Where else would you be paying? Sorry, the mortgage. I'm thinking about the people because it would equate to the rent. They're basically basing it on people's rent. So the rent that you would be paying on a property that you are renting at the minute would be £3,403, which is what you'd then pay for that mortgage. What property are you renting that's £3,403 that would be worth $600,000? It doesn't work. It wouldn't stack, if that makes sense. So you'd be paying a massive amount. You basically wouldn't be getting. You wouldn't be getting the same quality profit or value of property that you are currently living in if you were paying that in rent, if that makes sense. Which is mad. But also, there's a very small portion of people that I think that would work massively well for. Some of my clients even that are paying big chunks of money. They're high earners, renting, for example. Okay, I'm based in London, so I'm going to use that as my example. They're renting in Chelsea. They're paying like those kind of rents on something in a decent property. They're living in a 1-2 bedroom in Chelsea. But they're not saving a lot of money, but they're really good with their bills. They're really good with their rent, obviously their rent payments. They're earning a lot of money, but they just haven't saved. maybe they're just like a holiday. But I mean, however you look at it, your accounts are still going to be absolutely scrutinized. And the question, I guess, if I was the lender, is what if you are earning that much, why haven't you saved? Do you know what that's a big thing. But it could work for someone like that, because then basically they'd be moving out from Chelsea to somewhere like Chiswick, Richmond, further out that way, where actually getting to that point in their life might actually work. So I can see it actually working for some of my clients, which is interesting. So I do think there's a small portion of people that it would work really well for, but it's not for everyone. And I think same with a load of products that are on the market for first-time buyers. You know, some people, there's Fairview New Homes do a 1% deposit scheme. So basically you pay 1%, which is a very small amount as your deposit, and then you're paying basically like a subsidized rent kind of thing for 2 years on the property, but 100% of what you would be paying these monthly payments or rent to goes towards that 10% or 5% mortgage, whatever you've got as your mortgage. As your deposits, I get like to the end of the day, I'm like, you know what I mean. And then, but you've still got to afford the 100% of that property, whereas there's other things like shared ownership where you're only buying a share of it and you only have to get a mortgage on that share. So those are two very different first-time buyer products, and they aren't going to work for everyone. One of them is if you've managed to save a bit. One of them is if you can afford that whole property. One of them is if you are on a lower salary and you only want to buy a small amount and you haven't saved. So they're very different products, and I think, you know, it's not one size fits all, like we started at the beginning saying.
No, absolutely not. And I think there's so much information on social media.
Yes,
and it's
free information.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about, the free information that's provided by not just yourself, but there's a lot of people out there that's providing information, free and paid. It can be overwhelming.
It can be massively overwhelming. And I think with things like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you're like, where do I even get this? I'm overwhelmed with the amount of places that I can get this information from as well. And then it's like, who do I trust? How do I know who to trust? I wouldn't like to be a child nowadays. I just feel like it is overwhelming. You're constantly either being bombarded with people that are looking perfect, or you're being bombarded with information that you're then like, oh my god, I've got to learn all of this, or I feel like I now need to know all of this because Instagram is telling me that I need to know all of this. And then you're being bombarded with, I mean, it's just like non-stop. It
is relentless.
Yeah.
And just something I wanted to pick up on what you just said there, just going back to the confidence issues. Would the social media, or do you feel that social media has had an impact on people's confidence, their self-doubt?
I don't even need to hear the rest of the question. Yes.
Yeah.
Massively. Like, I don't know how people deal with the fact that people have free access to write whatever the hell they want about you. Like, it's insane. I think as an adult, I can personally deal with anything because I'm kind of like, whatever, literally don't have time to read this, like what I couldn't bat an eyelid. But as a younger vulnerable person who doesn't quite know their stance on opinions or matters, or it's very difficult. And I would not enjoy it. Like, I can see why people put bans on social media, and I mean, kids are being educated on how not to be groomed online at like 10, and I'm like, that's insane.
But they're not educated on confidence.
Or property. Or finance.
Or finance. Or just about to say, confidence, property, or money, or finance in schools, but they're educated on that. Very interesting.
It's ridiculous. I just think it's absolutely mad. Let's put together a course that we can take out to schools, because I would appreciate that. Like,
or relationships.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. And obviously, would you say that it's impacted some of your relationships? Social media. Social media
has impacted some of I personally wouldn't say so, because when I got into social media, I feel like I don't know when Instagram came out, but I think I was probably like 18, 19, 20 anyway. So I feel like I'd found my way in the world. So wasn't so impacted by it at all. And I was already in like a relationship with my boyfriend at that point. So hopefully I never have to go back to the market, because God, using like,
you can imagine just people glued to their phones.
Social media dating apps, couldn't handle it. could not handle it. I would get picked up and chopped up into little pieces by creep. Like,
Oh, brilliant!
and it's so dangerous. But I mean, I'm saying that as a joke, but like it actually happens.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, I don't. Obviously, I'm not on that scene, but I would imagine that you're not wrong.
Yeah, I know I was laughing about it, but like it's so true.
What's your recipe for success?
Oh, recipe. I'm not a good chef. Full stop. I think you have to be true to you. Like as soon as you try and do things to please other people is where you just have to do it for yourself. If you're not in something 100% for reasons that you want to do it, I think you're always going to fail because you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for clout or because someone else has told you and your heart's not in it. And I think you have to stick to something that your heart is in. It's like one of those head-heart situations, like it is a balance. But actually, if you don't enjoy something, you don't have a passion for it, you're going to be miserable. Fact.
100%. And I will ask you this, but it's only because I know you. Would you say that you're a workaholic because you have a passion for it?
Yes. I don't stop. Today I've been running around. I was late for this interview. Oh my God, I've like kissed your microphone so many times. Yeah, I would say so. But I really enjoy working. And I think my boyfriend is very much the same. And he almost brought that out of me because he does not stop working. Like he will get up at 4 a.m. and it's like, I can hear him typing away, like doing bits and bobs. And I'm like, my God, I need to start getting up at 4. But because I see his passion for it, it's not work. He's like, I'm not getting up to work. I'm getting up not because I have to, because I actually get really excited. He's like, right, what's my day consisting of today? And I feel the same about my work. And I just think every time I send an email to someone, that whether it's a client looking to house hunt, or whether it's someone that I'm pitching an idea with presenting wise or to work with on socials, I get really excited about the possibilities and what's to come in the future. Because with my house hunters, I'm like, oh my God, you're going to find you. I'm helping you find your home. Like this is a massive deal to you. And I'm so excited about it. And then with the prospect of presenting, pitching to people, sending out my ideas, which I try and do like every Monday, I'm like, oh my God, what work might come from this? Like you send it out to 50 people and you might get like one back, but it's still that excitement of what is coming next. And I feel like with my work, I have to keep moving. If I stop, I'm very like, oh my God, I need something to do. Like what is next? I will always find something to do next.
What happens when you stop?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't found out.
You're scared to find out?
Yeah, because I think I'd just create more work. I'd go and find something else, like another project. And I think for me, I mean, it's really exciting, but like my next project property-wise is my bungalow, which is like going to be my biggest development. But all my cash is locked up in that. So whilst it's sitting there not doing anything, we've now got planning, but there's all these other things that we've got to go through, which realistically that development's probably not going to start for at least another 3 months minimum. And that's if we sort out all these other issues. And then who wants to start building a basement like in winter? So then probably going to push it back to March next year, but your money's still all locked up in it. And I'm not going to get that out for 18 months, which means I can't do another project.
Yep.
So
I know all about that.
Yeah. And so I'm like going mad because normally it's like at least one a year, and now for 2 years I haven't done one. And
you had money tied up.
Yeah, and I've had money tied up.
Down valuation you've had before.
Oh my God,
Tell
the
people
down
about
valuation. So yeah, we got down valued by £450,000, which was ridiculous on a development where the GDV was 3.5 million. Supposed to be 3.5 million. I understand why it was downvalued, because they were valuing it on the plans, which was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and then 3 flats. We'll rule the flats out the situation for the minute, but there are changes that we've made to them as well. But how we solved that, and this is what I love about property, because it does get your little creative juices flowing, and you're like, how am I going to problem solve this one? Yeah. But with the right team around you, people come up with other ideas. Like you think you get downvalued and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But you start telling people about it. And this is why I think you should tell people about your problems, because suddenly people are like, oh, this happened to me once. You do this. This is why I love property networking events as well, because you can tell your problems to people and they don't judge you and they probably have a solution for it, or they've gone through it themselves.
9 times out of 10 they've gone
through it themselves. Yeah. So that we solved that problem by someone being like, they're basing it on planning. Planning's a box ticking exercise, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like, we couldn't have a bedroom in the basement of this particular development, but we had 2 reception rooms on the ground floor. So boom, you turn one of those reception rooms literally to a bedroom. You just we made a material amendment and changed the wording from reception room to bedroom.
And then what was the valuation after that? So it went from 450.
It's not. No, we're still under, but over by about 150,000. So
just by changing that, a slight change.
Yeah, we did make some slight material amendments to the flats as well. Like, for example, one of them couldn't be a 2-bedroom. Because it didn't meet the size standards, which I think is 61 square meters for a 2-bedroom. So someone came up with the idea, well, you move the door downstairs, you've gained 10 square meters. Now it's 2-bedroom. It was a 1-bedroom with a study.
So it just goes to show the power of your network.
Oh my God, like massively. And this is what like I love about planning, is just like, actually, it's easy to understand because you just have to tick the boxes, whether they make sense to you or not. Yeah. Like, we had 57 objections on this specific development. If they're irrelevant, you could have 1,000 objections. Doesn't matter, okay, because you've got a lot of public interest, you have to go to planning committee, but still, if they're irrelevant, it doesn't matter. Really great book by a friend of mine called Martin Gain, which is called How to Get Planning Permission. Details it all in there. It's
go and get
brilliant. It's so good, and it gives you loads of little tricks. Amazing.
What would you say is one thing you need to work on?
Me personally. Yeah. Well, no, I'm kidding. One thing I need to work on. My boyfriend asked me the same question the other day, because he loves to be like, right, we need to work on ourselves, and I'm like, sweetie, I don't need work. No, kidding. No, I think. I feel like there's always things you can improve, 100%. And I think for me, being a little less, this is going to sound awful. People are going to be like, we don't like you anymore, Lexie. Being like a little less selfish. I feel like I'm and that's me being honest. I feel like I'm sometimes quite a selfish person, but I don't think it's for the bad reasons. But sometimes I do just need to stop and be like, okay, let's think about how other people thought about that.
Why is that a bad thing?
Because I don't give people the time that they maybe need, and I'm just thinking about me, and I'm like, okay, I want to do this, I want to go there, let's do that, and then I'm like, hang on a minute, what do they want to do?
Okay, all right. But is it negatively impacting anyone else?
I don't know. I haven't asked them. But I don't know, and this is why it's so important to be honest with people as well. And like, you can't think that you're going to necessarily hurt someone's feeling. If you've got a problem with something, raise it 100%. And I'd like to think, no one does. It's not affecting anyone else because they haven't told me about it.
Exactly.
So,
and if you're there to receive the information and hear it and listen and hear it, then I would imagine that that's not been a problem for other people. Yeah,
exactly. But I feel like I've always been very like that, and it's because I'm so determined to do things that sometimes I have blinkers on and I'm just not thinking about anything else other than that's the goal I need to achieve.
Well, I think you've been very successful in achieving that. So you've been a presenter, property investor, developer.
There's more. Author. There's always more. There's a downside. You've just pointed it out for me. Like, well, you didn't. Like, that sounded like you just gone, Lexie, this was it. No, but always wanting more. I'm never happy with things. Like, you strive for one thing, and then as soon as I get it, I'm like, okay, what's next?
But why is that something to work on? I don't think that necessarily is.
Oh, well, there you go.
I don't think that is, because where's the ceiling?
It's stopping to enjoy the moment a bit more, I think.
Yeah, I think that's very important to do. But
and then you can continue again.
Then you continue.
But I don't have that middle ground. I'm kind of like, okay, we're done. Next.
Yeah, I think I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I've said it many times. I struggle to enjoy it.
I feel like a lot of people in this industry do.
But it's very hard to enjoy when I've got to get the next deal. I've got to buy this. And it's very hard to enjoy that moment. But I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit more the older I get. That's one thing I have noticed. But I'm also looking at bigger things now.
Yes.
Which excites me more.
Yeah.
So, or doing more, but in a shorter period of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's the not better people. That sounds wrong. But the less the people I surround myself with, the bigger deals they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. That is very true. And learning from what other people have done. Like if you surround yourself with people that have achieved what you want to achieve,
Yeah.
that goes with the confidence as well.
Absolutely.
Actually, thinking about the crowd that you're hanging out with, are they the people you aspire to be like?
100%. The last question we ask on this podcast is very simple. It's just, how are you doing?
How are you doing? Good?
I'm very good.
Good.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Much better after this.
I'm good. I'm just quite excited. I've got a long weekend coming up, so woo woo. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm having a great time. I'm here to have a good time. And like I say, if it's not fun and not enjoyable, I don't want to do it.
Brilliant. Lexie, you've been amazing.
And
thank
thank you
very
for
much
asking, by the way. What a nice question. And thank you for having me on the podcast.
Been amazing. Thank you very much.